Well, this is a bit of it. Oh, can't be having that. This is a bit. It's like and Decker likes to be on the right side of the screen.
Felt wrong, Dave.
Felt totally wrong. Yeah, a bit of a bonus here for some of our followers across the different platforms. IMG have announced the scoring criteria for 2025, and it's fair to say, whilst there's nothing surprising in terms of who the 12 teams are going to be, there is some surprises in terms of some of them scores. When you finished viewing this as well, we shared on our Facebook page today the club statement from Derek Beaumont. Wow. That's well worth a read. For those who watched the special with Derek, if you haven't already, go and watch that. He was very, very critical before the grading came out of the IMG project. And, he's even more critical today, which, Stef, I'll just get your view on that before we go through the gradings, because we were speaking before we came on air. Your take on the fact that Derek, again, has been vocal about his concerns over IMG.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to probably divide opinion on this one, but I think what Derek's got backing him up on this one is it's not like Leigh have been awarded a grade B. They've been awarded the highest grade possible. I think what he's trying to do is provide constructive criticism, a critical friend kind of thing, in terms of how we can refine this process. Because I do think there has been some good points with IMG coming in. If you look at the likes of Castleford, who've managed to, done a fantastic job there into getting a grade A. It's kind of made them improve the stadium, improve the fan experience and things like that, which hopefully should drive more crowds to the jungle and things like that. So I think, some people will see it as controversial, but I'd like people to just sit back on the fact that Leigh have been awarded an A, and it's not complaining because where we are. It's just trying to refine the process and how we can move forward. And I think more owners should probably step up with that as well, and not be behind a board meeting and come up with their suggestions. Because at the end of the day, we want to grow the game. We want it to make it the best possible, both on and off the field, from a spectator sport, but also from a sustainability of clubs as well. So I think the majority of the points he's making, I agree with.
Yeah, it's very difficult not to agree, if we're being perfectly honest. And I think what was interesting for me, I mean, look, we've all got great respect for the guys that own these clubs, and the likes of the new Wakefield owner. Is it Mike Ellis?
Yeah,
Mike or Mark? Can
Mark
Ellis. And of course, Jepson over there at Castleford, people who are coming into the sport, propping up these clubs. But, when you go and read that statement from Derek after we've gone through this show with you, he does say that if it weren't for him pretty much sponsoring the club, wiping off the debt, Leigh would not be in Super League.
No, and I think...
And that's the danger, isn't it?
Yeah, and everything comes back to club sustainability. And I think what Derek's saying there is, don't forget, Leigh have still got, it's on a 3-year cycle, so Leigh have still got 1 year's worth of championship and also revenue off the back of that, where Derek was putting in to create that team to come into Super League. If you look at Leigh's points on the financial side of things, they'll be actually one of the clubs, if I've read it right, that are actually made a profit this year. Because they've got points for that, so I can only assume that they have. So hopefully going forward, Derek won't have to do that. I think it's just adjustments he's had to make with his director's loans or whatever to get to the point where we are now. Hopefully going forward, Leigh is a sustainable club that doesn't need Derek as putting financial money in there. And I think he's already alluded to that, obviously, with the growth of the club, the attendances we're getting now as well at Leigh. And this is where the whole IMG comes back to. It's all about getting bums on seats and providing a brilliant experience when they're there.
Yeah, keep your comments coming in the chat. We will get to them. Good afternoon to Josh Sim, to Darren Wester, who are already with us. There's quite a few of us as well, but we'll get through. We'll get through to them. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, again, what is also quite concerning this afternoon is, again, we will draw a little bit from Derek's statement on this. The Rugby Football League, there's been a couple of journalists, and I think the Rugby Football League hinting the fact that as soon as 2026, Super League could be a 16-team comp. But then in Derek's statement, he's saying, well, there's not enough money for 12. So there's a massive problem there that's on the horizon. And Derek, I mean, I hope I read this right. Tell me if I didn't. Without going the whole hog, he almost hints that he's concerned about transparency. At the moment, Leigh are the only team to actually put by criteria how they scored on their websites. Nobody else has done that, which I think is interesting. Whether that's going to get released by the Rugby Football League or Super League or whatever down the line, we will wait and see on that. But he does hint at his concern that, behind the curtain, next season, will there be a bit of jiggery pokery to keep it as a status quo 12 because there's not enough money in the game to make it 16? Did I read that right? Was there a little concern?
You're right in what he's saying in terms of that. I think what I think potentially would happen if we got to that point is this is where we talk about renegotiating TV deals. And I think this is why some of the IMG grading criteria is so important in terms of the fandom, the viewership of matches and stuff like that. All these are criteria that earn you points. So obviously the more people who are watching the sport, the more that IMG will then have to go to the likes of Sky Sports or a streaming platform, be that Danzon, be that Amazon Prime, anything like that, to negotiate a better deal that would allow for the expansion of more teams into the competition. I think everybody wants to get to 14 teams so we can get rid of the loop fixtures. And it's great if we get to the point where we've got 14 A grades. That to me says the sport's thriving and also clubs are being run how they should be. So I think there's a lot of, it's very easy to criticise things like IMG. I think sometimes you've got to look at the positives of what it's doing to our sport. And the biggest one is the sustainability of the clubs, because nobody wants to see a situation where a club goes all out to stay up and doesn't make it and then ends up in a situation where, like Halifax are at the moment, where I know they've got issues with HMRC that are unresolved and reports of winding up petitions that they're saying is not true, and Whitehaven have been in a similar position. So hopefully things like this in terms of the criteria will stop clubs doing that, but also get extra revenue into the clubs through better facilities.
Yeah, and I think that side of IMG we're all in agreement with. If it makes for a better experience for fans that are in the stadium, I think we're all for that, and it has worked to that end. There's no doubt about it. Clubs have been compelled to improve what they do for the fans in the stadiums, and nobody's against that. But like I say, there's still lots of questions surrounding this going forward. Do read Derek's statement in full. If you didn't see it, go and catch the special with Derek Bowman. It's available for you on our YouTube channel. And people who are watching this maybe this afternoon and don't know about Super League Raw and you're catching us for the first time, go to YouTube, put in Super League Raw. There's a great special there with Derek where he talks about IMG and loads of other good stuff there as well. And also last night, catch up on last night, a brilliant exclusive interview with Craig Lingard, reference his departure from the Castleford Tigers. Yet last night's show was equally compelling. Both of those available as a podcast as well on Spotify, Apple and Amazon. Right, let's get into the IMG gradings then. Here they are. This is what's been published this afternoon. What we'll do, I'll just get rid of I'll just get rid of that off the screen so that but yeah, please do like, share, subscribe to our channels and keep commenting in the chat. We will get to you in a few moments time. But first of all, like, share, comment and get over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Right, this is the grading system. This is where it is at. What I'd like to do first and foremost is where are we going to go here first and foremost? Let's start with, I think we start with London. I mean, a lot of conversations about London at the back end of last year when they marked their own homework, and I think some overmarked it and some probably undermarked it, looking at where they've all moved to and from. But when they marked their own homework, London Broncos were 8.07. They have gained in one season of Super League up to 12.65. Now, we spoke, Stef, about London and perhaps that they deserve to have dispensation. And I think what this actually proves, Stef, is that if they was allowed a second and a third year, like Catalan had back in the day, that they would probably be a viable 12-team comp team. I mean, hopefully it goes to 14 in the next couple of years. But certainly they would more likely become a viable 12-team comp team, wouldn't they?
Oh, well, you'd have said last season Leigh were viable, wouldn't you? And I think that score, what they've got there, is pretty close to, if not the same as what Leigh got last year. I'm just desperately searching for my 2023 things, what I had up. But
it's all right. Well, I can honestly tell you that's where London was, 8.07 up to that score.
Yeah.
Outstanding, absolutely outstanding in terms of the growth that they've had. But unfortunately, they sit outside. We then go to Toulouse, who again has improved, but they were ranked 10th last season when the initial gradings came out. They have dropped to 13th. Their score, however, has increased. That's interesting. So even though they've dropped down to 13th, their score has improved. They were 12.97 last year, 13.58. Even if they'd have won the comp they beat Wakefield at the weekend. I still don't think they would have got over Salford, is my understanding.
They'd have been very close, Dave, because
very close.
I think they get 0.25. They're only 0.3 away.
Yeah, exactly. But they would have still missed out marginally against Salford, and we'll get to Salford in a minute. But in terms of London and in terms of certainly of Toulouse there really are knocking on the door of Super League. We'll get to Castleford Tigers later now, because Castleford actually were ranked 13th, but they did get their submission wrong. But I mean, their rise has been unbelievable in terms of their scoring. But like I said, they did get their financials wrong when they submitted in 2023. But I think what we've got to do here is we've got to first of all pick up on Salford Red Devils, because the Salford Red Devils, as you can see there, 13.97, 13.58 is the Toulouse Olympic. Now, as we sit here now, Wakefield were relegated last year. Wakefield promoted this year. So even if we had relegation and promotion, Wakey come back up. Mm-hmm. We know that London are going to have a depleted squad. So normally when the team gets relegated, they have a bit of an advantage going into the championship. We've seen that time and time again over the years. London aren't going to be, for me, a concern to Toulouse. So actually, if Toulouse decide to go around again, because again, there's question marks over the viability of Toulouse from a financial perspective, them going again in 2025. But if they did, the chances are they win that comp. Now, of course, they lose in terms of other points as well. But if Salford had a shocker and finished 12th, and Toulouse stuck around and won the championship, I think Toulouse possibly overtake them.
I think you're right. I think that's the very real. I mean, 0.30 of a point is the difference at the moment. What Salford have got, that's it. Which, to put that into context, is get a decent scoreboard or whatever kind of thing, and you're nearly there. Or the 0.25, like I say, for winning the comp. It's those fine margins. But just to put London's score into context as well, because I managed to get the thing up now from last year. If that score was based on last year, then London would be 9th. They'd overtake Huddersfield on the 2023 scores. So that's a phenomenal effort by London to get there. And it's only the fact that other clubs have improved that they're not in Super League now. But yeah, going back to the Salford one, my concern for them is where they're going to make the improvements. Because like you referenced earlier on, Dave, Leigh have published all their scores. I'd love to see what Salford's breakdown is, because some of these things you can do things about, and some, you can't. And I think one of the things what Salford will really struggle on is the financials and also the attendances. So they're going to have to do some massive work in the off season in terms of getting fans through the gates to ensure they're going to be in Super League next year.
Yeah, and you probably throw Huddersfield into that category as well in terms of the fan element of it, because again, if you just put back up the actual scoring, you'll see that next up from Salford is the Giants. Don't get me wrong, a bit of a cushion there, 14.48. So actually it would take a calamity from Huddersfield to drop out of the 12 next year. It really, I don't see how they could do that, quite frankly, as we sit here now. Do I see Toulouse Olympic overtaking 14.48 and Salford doing the same? Absolutely not. So I think from a Huddersfield fans' perspective, more so than Salford, that cushion that they have got probably sees them well for the next few years. And of course, they've got ambitions of building their own stadium, which I think will help in terms of fan experience, etc. So I think as we sit here now, Huddersfield, they're okay. But if I'm a Salford Red Devils fan, I'm really concerned today. Because I don't think they'd have woke up this morning thinking it was going to be that tight.
No. And if Toulouse had beaten Wakefield would still have probably, they would have definitely got in because of the score, even if you take the 0.25 off. But if you add that onto Toulouse's, then it would have been, you're talking 0.00 of points between them and Salford, which would have been a very concerning time for them. But I think if you look at the other ones that are coming up as well there, Dave, if you just put it back on, the likes of York City Knights as well and Bradford, these are all clubs that, again, I'd love to see where they're missing points and where they could go, because as we've seen with London, it's very easy for those clubs to start picking up points because they've got more to go at in terms of where they're losing. So that's a phenomenal effort from York, and I know Bradford are doing a lot behind the scenes to get their points up as well. So
Bradford. Well, on that, let's just do that for clarity. So York last year was 10.05. They're now at 12.42. So that's a really good improvement from York. And let's be fair, that York stadium it's a nice little stadium, that. And they've got some really good behaviours around the women's game that they just need to replicate into the men's game. So I think there's a real opportunity there for York should they wish to take it. Of course, Bradford Bulls, they haven't improved as much. And that again, and this is where you've got to tip your hat to the likes of York. Because Bradford last year were 12.02. They're now at 12.15. So not a mass. I mean, don't get me wrong, Bradford are a sleeping giant. We know that. But I think it makes it even more impressive what York has achieved this year.
100%, Dave. And I think if you read, going back to Derek's statement, the main chunk of where Leigh have gone up by, because Leigh have increased by 2.5 points, I think, something like that, maybe a little bit more to get to the grade A. A lot of that was to do with owner investment and loans and moving things around and investment into the club. So if York get an investor in who's willing to put some money into the club, they could very easily jump up 2 points just on the financials without seeing exactly where their score is. And likewise, your Bradfords, your Toulouse as well. I suspect where they're falling down on points, it's all to do with owner investment, which is one of the biggest points Derek's making in terms of the impact that has, regardless of performance on the field.
And the other thing that, again, go and read the statement in full. And it's not, look, I'm not a Leigh Loving. I said before we came on air, it's like it's a Leigh Loving at the minute. Come on, Derek, do something wrong so we can start giving some grief. But, in Derek's statement, he talks about, the fact that, on field, the lack of points for on field. And I think maybe Castleford in his head, because Castleford is a very small pitch. So in terms of, size of playing field is not considered. There's these like almost
academy is not considered.
Academies as well. I mean, things that for me are important. I think they are important. I think, size of your field, I think is important. I think, that because it does give, for me personally, Castleford a little bit of an advantage because, most players will play on a normal size field every week and in training and practice. And then all of a sudden they're trying to do 40-20s at Cass. Very easy to get them wrong, very easy to get kickouts wrong because, it's muscle memory. So I think, when you go to Castleford, you've got to take into account the size of the pitch. So again, I sort of see where he's going with that. He's also very, fair. He was also quick to congratulate the likes of Wakefield and Castleford on the score. So it's not that he's had, before we get the Derek not on. No. But it's a really valid point that I think certain elements like that could also be a standard, shouldn't they?
But I think one of the real daft ones from the Leigh score is that we lost 0.125 of a point because our big screen didn't have enough pixels, even though it was put in by UEFA as part of the Women's Euros in 2022. And the fact that we got 0 points for our big screen, so we got the same points as someone who hasn't got a big screen. How stupid is that? It's ridiculous. So I can imagine there's a scramble at the LSV to order a compliant big screen for next season. But I think you're absolutely right. Where this is where when we're not counting academy and things that are actually going to impact the sustainability of a club. That for me is a big oversight because when you talk about financials and stabilities of club, the club gets dispensation for bringing academy products through. So again, it makes your club more sustainable and better on the field if you're bringing through your own talent. So why is academy not a criteria? It's just crazy to me that, but
it's absolutely for the longevity of the game. Academy is vitally.
I think the other one for me, Dave, which is I think a really important one because it's actually 0.25 of a point, which is significant, is the Challenge Cup. So Leigh lose 2.25 because of the Challenge Cup drops off, but yet the attendances and everything's all done over 3 seasons. So if you win a Challenge Cup, that's a significant trophy or a grand final. You should keep that for the longevity of the 3 years, and then it drops off after the 3rd year. I think that's ridiculous. So you only get what's that doing for any club to have it for just 1 season?
Well, especially when there's only one Challenge Cup. You're right. When you look at all the other criteria that are quite fluid. I mean, unless you're Wigan, perhaps, again, would Wigan be favourite next year to win the Challenge Cup? Yeah, he would be. Will he win it? Who knows? It's knockout rugby league. You can't say that. But a team like Leigh, let's be honest, and it's a one in a. If they would won once every 5 years, they'd be over the moon at the minute in terms of where they're currently at. So you're absolutely right. That favours as well. Perhaps the likes of certainly Wigan at this moment in time, in terms of extra points, they don't really need. But it's all interesting. It's all very, very interesting. I do. We'll look at other teams now. Throughout the year, there's been this big question mark. In fact, we've got to go there, haven't we? We've got to go All FC. Dear God. So All FC were grade A, 15.05 last year. They've dropped to 14.51, 10th now, Hull FC. And again, a warning this. I think that they got, because of that score, Hull could do what they've done this year. But I think what it does, and I think Derek again says this in his statement, it's a warning to any side, especially as this gets tighter and tighter. You can't afford to down tools for a season. No longer can you afford to use a season for, dare I say it, wholesale changes. Because if you do, especially with these scores that we're seeing today, the likes of Toulouse, London, they're there to steal your dinner, aren't they?
100%. And unlike the Challenge Cup argument we were just making, the big problem with finishing in 11th, 12th, 10th is that stays with you for 3 years. It's like a bad debt. So, that will stay with Hull FC now for the next 3 seasons in terms of where their rank is in the game as a total, because it's divided by the 3 seasons in terms of where your official position is. Hence why Leigh have still got a 13th position from the Championship. So next year we cannot not go up on our performance, because the worst we can do is finish 12th, which is an increase from 13th on our average. So I think that's the warning to clubs now, especially your likes of Salford. If they wanted to increase their finances by not spending as much on the team this year and say, we'll finish bottom, well, then 100% they're going to get replaced by Toulouse.
Yeah, we've got Paul Rowley's going to be joining us for Super League Raw Weekly in December. That's going to be an episode not to miss now. That's going to be a very, very interesting edition of Super League Raw Weekly coming to you in December. More details on that in the coming weeks. Right, Castleford Tigers, throughout the year, because because of where they ranked last year, they ranked 13th outside the 12 with 12.16 last year. That has probably took a few of us off, because, of course, Castleford did say that they got their submission wrong. And how can you caveat that? You couldn't prove that one way or the other. So there's a big question mark over Castleford. And, of course, the jungle is what the jungle is. Yes, they've done great improvements there this year, etc., etc. But from the outside looking in, none of us really knew. None of us really knew where Castleford was concerned. And a lot of the time, and we've been guilty of it in Weekly, we were considering that perhaps Castleford would be pretty much where Salford were. And then today, out come these results, and you've got to give so much credit to the Castleford Tigers, because they've gone from 12.16, which clearly wasn't an accurate score, to 15.02, just about getting that score to make them grade A. And what I want to say here is, and I saw Martin Jepson's video message to the fans on getting grade A. I think it would have shown a bit of class today had he also mentioned Craig by name. He mentioned some directors who put the submission together and this, that, the other. Craig didn't get a mention. I thought I think it was an opportunity there for him to give praise where it was due in terms of what Craig did on the field last year.
What was the score? What was the score?
Pardon?
What score did Castleford get?
15.02. They've got a grade A.
So if they'd have finished in 10th place, they finished 10th. If they'd have finished in 11th place, they wouldn't have got grade A.
Correct. And, what he did do as well, and I applaud this, is he did praise the fans. We saw a massive surge of encouragement for fans to come out and support Castleford last season, especially probably from mid-season on. And, again, absolutely right. The Castleford faithful, some wonderful fans down there at Castleford. There's no doubt about it. One of the greatest clubs, in the history of rugby league, So absolutely, we didn't want to see Castleford go down. Absolutely not. We don't want Castleford in jeopardy. He paid tribute to the fans for coming out in numbers, and I thought that was right. He paid tribute to the staff, of which Craig is no longer. Yeah, and he also, paid tribute to some of the directors. And like I say, we spoke to Craig last night. When I watched that today, sorry, and I'm not sure. Look, I'm just saying it as it is. I think there was an opportunity there for him to just come out and say, and let me also take this opportunity of thanking Craig for all of his hard work and getting and contributing towards this great score. And I think that for me would have shown a lot of quality, but unfortunately that wasn't there.
Yeah, well, I mean that's their prerogative, isn't it? And one thing you've got to give him credit for is that he's come in as a new owner and an investor into the sport, so that should be celebrated. And they obviously want to take it into a new direction, which again I completely understand that. The thing with Castleford is, and probably the good thing from the IMG side of things, from a club's point of view, is it's black and white. They know exactly what they need to do. If you put an LED screens in, you will get these points. If you do X, you will get these points. And what I think Castleford have done really, really well is they've identified the quick fixes, what they can put in place to get the score up. I think they have, they've been lucky in terms of Craig's and the team's efforts last season to get to that one place up, which has just about got them into an A. But from a Castleford fan perspective, this is brilliant news for them. Probably the dawn of a new era. They've got a fantastic new shirt, which has just been launched. They're going to appoint a new coach. There's obviously some.
There it is. For those who are still there from last night, and there it is in all its glory.
It's like I knew that was coming up then.
Yeah, marvellous. It's marvellous.
And they've got some really good players coming in for next season as well, and probably more to come as well. So I think from a Castleford IMG perspective, it's a massive shot in the arm. And I've seen a lot of Castleford fans, saying a bit of humble pie for everybody to think it. And I think they're right. And you've got to applaud them for being proactive with the rules that have been put in place. And as a board of directors and new investor, they've done a cracking job there to achieve an A grade.
Yeah, keep your comments coming in the chat, because once we've gone through the grading system, we will go through it, give you your shout outs, and if there's anything in there that me and Stef can talk around, we most certainly will. But look, Castleford have done a great job. I think Sean in the chat has said that he did praise Craig in another interview. If he did, great, happy days, I'm delighted. For me, be consistent, do it across them all, because like I say, that short one on Facebook, for me, I don't see why you were missing from that one, having included him in another one. I think, especially with the emotional element. I mean, everybody, Craig, Steph said it. There's Andy and Susan in the chat. Castleford have decided to move on, take it in a different direction. Absolutely, no issues with that. You saw Craig, last night, took it on the chin. It's professional sport, but like I say, remember what people have done for you. And if he's done that in another interview, fantastic. I'm delighted to hear it. But I'd have loved it to have been across all platforms as well. But anyway, that's by the by. Let's get back into the gradings. So we've done Castleford, Wakey. Wow, absolutely wow. And again, I think Steph, you were very verbal at the start of the season. You said that this could be the best thing that's happened to Wakefield, going down like KR and Leigh before them. Yeah. And what Wakey have done has been outstanding. Some improvements to the ground. They've invested like Leigh did in a squad that was not just going to be potential, not just favourite to win the championship, but when they come up, would just need a couple of little tweaks to be a really competitive side, perhaps a playoff competitive side. And it's been rewarded. I mean, Wakefield Trinity were ranked 11th last year, 12.52. They've gone up to 15.09. Castleford Wakey Derby on the way. Looking forward to that one. That'll be good fun. Massive congratulations to Wakey.
Yeah, and I think with this one, it's a bit of a, from a Leigh fan perspective, imitation's the best form of flattery. I think they've looked at what Leigh have done, the model that they did.
And KR before, I always have to do this. And KR before.
And KR, 100%. Yeah, I always give KR credit for being the leaders in terms of how to be a sustainable promoted side. But in terms of getting the new stand there, and the stand is not the be-all and end-all. There's still a hell of a lot of work required at that ground to get it to be a facility like the Totally Wicked or the Halliwell Jones, for example. But they are doing that. I've already seen plans where they're on about increasing it to 9,000. Brilliant. That's exactly what I see. But with the main thing there is they've got an owner, they've got a backer who's come on board. Invested in the fan experience. I've noticed they've got the fireworks going and all that kind of thing there as well. And the best thing about going down to the championship is you create a winning side again, and nothing brings team fans back into grounds than when your side's winning. So hopefully they get the membership right at that club for next season. I'm sure they will. Hopefully they sell 5,000-6,000 season tickets and support somebody who has come in and basically give them a Super League side. But the fans have been a big part of that as well. They wouldn't be getting, if the fans had just not turned up for the Championship games, they would not be a Grade A club now. They might still be in Super League, but they wouldn't be Grade A.
Well, we said it yesterday when we were talking about the memberships and what good membership rollout looks like. The fans, Greg said it last night. You take your fans for granted. You're going to end up losing. And I think that, again, I think a lot of investment has happened, and this is a plea to anybody who's watching from the clubs today. Hopefully, there's some people who pick this up. We appreciate that the 2024 campaign for many was to get their ducks in a row around the infrastructure of their clubs. You've achieved that now. Other than maintenance, you don't need to go out and buy new LED boards and all this kind of stuff. You're there. You're not going to drop the ball in terms of your social media because you're already on that way of doing things. My plea to you all is now, this year, make you focus your fans, because your fans is what's going to sustain you. That's it. You've got your infrastructure now. Now it's about your fans, and I think that's what I would say to all clubs. Make sure that you prioritise them and make them feel a valued part of the team. Right, let's get back into this group of teams. Right, Leigh. So Leigh were 12th last year. They would have, again, we'll take Castleford at face value. They got their submission wrong. So Castleford would have been above Leigh. Where they'd have been in the table, we don't know. But actually, if Castleford's submission was wrong, it was 12.16 versus 12.45. Leigh perhaps wasn't going to be in the 12, but they did get a score of 12.45. Leigh have rose to 15.13. That is phenomenal, and it really does show just how much the Leopards have done, the rebrand, the fan experience, all of that kind of stuff. That is some improvement year on year, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a phenomenal effort by the players on the pitch first and foremost, because obviously performance getting. I think if we hadn't got playoffs, I don't think we would have been Grade A. So that's how important that run was, just to put that into context for everybody in terms of going on that winning run that we did. Massive credit to the players, but also to Derek and to the board of directors, but also the public of Leigh. The fans have come out and supported the team, and again, it comes back to Lamb's favourite comments in terms of winning takes care of everything, and it does, But again, I'll come back to the financial side of things. If it's right what I'm reading, that we have made a profit compared to some clubs who are losing £1.5-2 million, that is all to do with the fans getting merchandise and growing that side of the thing as well. So to increase your score by that amount is a phenomenal effort from Leigh, and fully deserved of the last two seasons what they've been in Super League.
Absolutely, well done, Mr. Beaumont. I'm sure he's watching from his sunbed. Let's get back into this one. Then the Catalan Dragons. Now Catalan last year were fourth, 16.73. They've had a shocking 2024 campaign. They've dropped to 15.52, very comfortably at a Grade A. Nothing too much to worry about there from the Catalan Dragons perspective long term. So we'll just leave that one there. Very, very secure in Grade A. They've had a bad year this year. They'll be looking to improve next. Nothing to worry about from a Catalan perspective. Then we go to Hull KR. Hull KR last year, 6th, 15.52, now up to 15.97, up to 5th, going in the right direction. And I think they'll continue to rise. I think Hull KR have got the magic blend at this moment in time. They're on that upward. We know they've got a phenomenal squad coming into the 2025 season. I think, from the outside looking in, I think it's going to be a very tight comp and a more competitive comp in 2025. But we would be amazed without predicting next season too early. We wouldn't see KR outside minimum top three as we sit here now. Of course, there's a lot of toing and throwing in terms of transfers that we're going to have to see. So we'll hold our beer where that's concerned. But based on what we know, the signings they've made, Reece Martin being, for me, massive in terms of their point scoring credentials, you would expect that they will improve still further when this comes round again.
Yeah, well, I think this is where it's interesting, going back to the point on clubs releasing their the scores and where they've actually got places they can improve. Because if you look at Hull KR, I mean, it's fantastic where they are. They're 100% a Grade A club. But in terms of sides that have increased, they're probably one of the smallest. They've only gone up by 0.4, I think it is, in terms of. Now, that you could argue is because they were already doing really, really well. And it'd be very interesting to see what's possible for them. Where could they get to? Because there's some parts of IMG where you're never going to achieve it. Like for Huddersfield, for example, one of the criteria is the utilisation of your ground. Well, they've got 25,000. They're only getting 4. Whereas Hull KR, they're 10,000 and they sell it out every week. So they can't really do anything to increase that part of it. So it'll be interesting to see from a KR perspective where they can pick up points and where they're dropping them at the moment.
Well, and again, getting into the finite detail of this, I mean, I'm right in thinking there's also points for utilisation of your ground on non-match days. And of course, if you're a Hull FC, if you're Leigh, if you're Salford, it's not your ground.
No.
So that's one of those areas where, as you say, for those type of teams, there's very little you can do, really, if you don't own your ground, unless there is an absolute way of proving that actually Hull FC, the rugby team, is what has utilised this particular part of the ground on a non-match day, as opposed to Hull, the football team. And again, I don't want to get into if that's possible or not. I really, really don't know. One thing's for certain, though, the likes of a Warrington, the likes of a St Helens, those who actually own their own grounds, do have not only an advantage in terms of utilisation, but also revenue streams that they can put into the club, which again makes Leigh's financials also interesting in the fact because they don't own the ground.
Well, this is my point on this one, because this is where I think it's a bit daft, because Leigh are on like a 999-year lease of that ground. There is no way of removing Leigh from Leigh Sports Village. They're actually a part ownership in Leigh Sports Village. So to take points away from Leigh for that is crazy, I think, because regardless of whether you own your own ground or not, you can own your own ground, but it costs you £2 million a year to run it. Leigh costs 15% of ticket sales, and we're making profit. So which is the better deal? So why do you lose points for that? I don't get it. I think the only time when I think you should lose points is if a bit like when you're going to do a mortgage on a property and it's only got 10 years left on the leasehold, that devalues that property massively. But if you're on a huge long-term lease contract, there's no risk to you doing it. And actually, you could argue from a financial point of view, even when you're getting beer sales and all that, by being in lease situations, probably better than a lot of super clubs who own their own ground.
Especially with the price of electricity at the moment and all that kind of stuff. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. No doubt about that whatsoever. So well done to Hull KR, outstanding. Warrington gone up a place. Warrington were 15.75. They're now on 16.27. So that's good news for Warrington Wolves fans. Again, we're getting into the teams now that they're under no pressure really at this moment in time, unless they really do. Well, God only knows what they could do to drop in the next 5-10 years.
Well, performance is irrelevant, Dave. On
performance is irrelevant, but it's the utilisation bit, maybe the financial backer and all that from a finance perspective. I don't know, but I mean, we're now getting into the echelons here now where these guys, and let's be honest, Super League needs these clubs. I mean, God, if we didn't have these clubs, at this moment in time, these are Super League clubs. So Warrington have gone up, Leeds have gone down. Leeds actually were top of the 2023 grading, 17.49. They've dropped to 16.84. So they've gone down. So either they mismarked their own homework last year, or actually it's come back to bite them this year in terms of their on-field performance. And then we've got the top two. And Saints sit top of the shops with 17.02 versus Wigan 16.91. And if there was ever a signpost to how little on-field performance affects these scores in the main, it's that. You're talking about Wigan back-to-back back-to-back grand final winners, back-to-back League Shield winners, Challenge Cup winners this season. Was it 3 years ago they beat Huddersfield?
Yeah.
Or was it longer than that?
No, a bit longer. I think it was a bit longer.
So that wouldn't have counted. But you're talking. World Club Challenge doesn't count. But the bottom line is, on field over the last 3 years, and we know Saints had that massive 4-year run. We get that. So Saints' last championship will count into these scores. But the last 2 seasons has been all Wigan. Yet Saints only just, not an awful lot in it, but Saints pip them, and that for me is the indicator of, you can be the off-field stuff goes into these points far more than the actual on-field stuff does. And that, for me, when these came out, I think there'll be a lot of people who would have been surprised to see that St Helens were just above Wigan.
Yeah, and I think this is what Derek was alluding to a little bit in terms of the on-field performance, because this is why we need to see each one and where they've got to pick the scores up. But this is not a dig at Saints, by the way, who I think they're a top Super League A all day kind of thing. But just to put a bit of perspective on it, they've not won a trophy. They've finished 6th in the playoffs, and they've just announced financial deficits of like 1.5 million. So where are they getting the points from to be, against Wigan, who've won everything? Why do Wigan get points for winning the World Club Challenge? Why would you not get points for that in an international competition?
Well, that was surprising when they came out. But you know what? I think that it's good for social media banter between the two supporters. I'm sure they're having a ball today, winding each other up on that one. It's nice to see that Wigan don't win everything, I suppose. But ultimately, that top echelon is pretty much as you would have expected it. No major dramas there. Well done to the teams that are up there. Apart from that, looking at it, it's a bad league for Cumbrian Rugby League. It's a real shame. I think I'm right in thinking highest one. Where are we? Barrow.
Yeah, what position were Barrow?
17th. So Barrow 11.22. Bad news for Cumbrian Rugby League in terms of the leagues. But hey, there you go. That is where we are now. Obviously, if we get the analysis, we will cast our eyes over that, and we might touch on that throughout the winter. As you know, we're going all the way through the winter here at Super League Raw. We do hope you will join us. We're going to get into the comments now and say a few hellos and see what's been there. And the brother of Sale, Matty, he was in there talking about the pixels, as you'd expect. Greg Roach, good afternoon. He says, good afternoon, gentlemen, and to you too, Dave, considering there's only two of us. But anyway, I don't know. Anyway, but he's liking lunchtime Raw, so at least he's happy with that. Les here saying it's an absolute joke, Wakey and Cass grade A. Well, no, it's not.
No, well, I think this is a point I was going to make in terms of everybody, including the fans. It's been well published. It's not like they've hidden the criteria.
No.
So it's transparent, which for the Rugby League is unusual. Sorry, RFL. But it's marking your own homework, like you've used a few times. So, and the good thing with the because it was so transparent, the club could see where they could pick points up and where it's probably not achievable. So it's not a joke that they've got it. It's brilliant that they have, and it's brilliant that they've improved the things that they've needed to. The next thing for these teams now is, like you say, you can't buy another LED, you can't buy another big screen. So what you need to do now is, hopefully, this is the benchmark for a lot of these clubs that have got A to now really kick on and start their investment in their academies, in their in the first team, and in the coaching staff.
Absolutely, yeah. So for me, I completely agree. It is what it is. I do hope, though, that people do that, whether it be from Super League themselves or from the clubs, that we do get that level of transparency, so we as fans can see and cross-reference and see how they all. Because obviously, we will do the hard work for you, and we'll present that in an easy and logical way for you all to see if and when that information comes out. And I, for one, will be very interested to see how they compare side by side in each criteria, because it might make more sense to us when you can actually see the clubs side by side on each individual criteria. Josh Sims says he thinks a 14 team is a sweet spot. I think it is. I think before it gets to 16, it'll be 14. And, even it's plausible that we can have 16 grade A's, but we've only got a 14 team comp. That's perfectly plausible. So that's there. Robert Higson's, he's tuning in from sunny Newquay. Nice to have you with us tonight. This afternoon. Michael Bell, your night's rank is superb. Believe it's the highest rating of any part-time club. Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more, Mike. It's a great result if you're a London Knights supporter. York City Knights, dear me. Anyway, it's been a long 24 hours. Linda Blunson watched last night's session. Brilliant interview with Craig Lingard. Couldn't agree with you more, Linda. If you didn't catch it, go and get it this afternoon on YouTube. Go and watch last night's Super League Raw Weekly with Craig. You will absolutely love it. If you prefer, download it as a podcast wherever you get it from Amazon, Apple, or Spotify. You can get it from there. But really pleased that that Linda enjoyed that last night. I wouldn't expect anything less than that. Les again going in. Les not happy, I don't think, with IMG. What improvements have these teams really made? Cass just keeps showing artistic impressions of new ground like they've had for 20 years. Absolutely. And I think that frustrates everybody that happens year after year. But there's no way of fudging this.
No.
So whether you like it, Les, or whether you don't like it, Castleford have got a grade A license.
Yeah. I think what you've got to look at with Castleford is, like I've been saying a few times, they've looked at where they can pick points up, like having an LED screen for the video referee, things that are all going to feed into future things like Captain's Challenge, having the LED advertising boards, putting the seats in to make sure they meet the minimum criteria for seats. One thing that Castleford have got is a fantastic fan base, so the utilisation of their stadium will be very, very high because they're getting 8,000-9,000 on average, which is a big part of the score. And also, on-field performance, yes, they've not been brilliant, but they're still a Super League club and an established one, so they've not got the handicap of a season in the Championship, for example. So this isn't about getting rid of established clubs. It's about established clubs improving the standards so they remain in the competition. And I don't think anybody wants to see the likes of Castleford go down.
No, they add far too much value. Let's be fair. They go down. It's replaced by London. Net 5,000 less people are going through the turnstile in Super League. That's the reality. Why would we want that? What we want to do is expand the comp. We don't want to lose teams like Castleford who've already got a foothold in the game, have already got a great fan base. That's the last thing any of us want. For me, happy Cass have got. Just got to give massive congratulations to Castleford. To get a grade A. Nobody last year would have put Castleford as grade A. So whatever they've done, I think they've been very sensible in what they've targeted. They've done it really, really well. That 700 grand that was saved on the salary cap might have gone a long way towards that. But yeah, well done. Incredibly well done. Craig, fourth, another Super League Raw member. If Toulouse had won, I wonder if they'd have found the extra couple of points. Well, one thing's for certain. They might have gone for a recount. I'll tell you now. They might have gone for a recount. Had they have beaten Wakefield at the weekend, that, as Stef already said, it really would have been touch and go there between them and Salford, and I think both accountants at Salford and at Toulouse would have been getting busy, because I think both teams, I think Salford would know that Toulouse perhaps would be trying to find a couple of extra points somewhere, or get some sort of adjudication in a certain area, and I think Salford themselves would have gone, hang on, we need, just in case this comes, we need to.
Well, they couldn't have done anything because it had already been submitted before the grand final, so they couldn't have done anything about it. But it would have been definitely squeaky bum time for Salford, because you are talking 0.034 of a point, which would be crazy.
But the thing is, again, let's not discount. Look, if Salford was to do what they did, Salford finished fourth this year. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that Salford finished fourth this year. Paul Rowley has got form for miracles. I think Sangari's on the way there. I saw today he's been released from Leeds, and do you know what? I think there's a player in him. I think he just needs somebody to hone it out of him. Maybe Paul's the man to do that. But I think Sangari's got the tools. He's a big lad. He's a big unit. There's no reason why he can't be a great prop forward in Super League. I just think he needs some sort of guidance and direction to bring him out of himself. So we know that he's always good in the transfer market, he's Paul. He always is. He'll maximise that. If it was to finish fourth again next year, that would go a long way. But I do think they are very, very. If they, I think you might have said this earlier, Steph. If their on-field performance was to drop, that's calamity.
The thing is with Salford is that they say it all the time. They're open about it. They say they spend the least amount in Super League. Well, I think Castleford will have something to say about that based on the information we got yesterday. But they've been quite lucky with injuries this season. If those hit to key players next year and they end up 11th, 12th kind of position, that's going to hit them hard. But the thing is with Salford, regardless of their on-field performance, last year they were asking fans to take £1,000 loans to keep the club going. So this is where IMG is a rewarding clubs who have got good balance sheets, good things like that, and you get more points for it. Now, this is where there might be the undoing of Salford, and it needs to be communicated to the public of Salford that they potentially could lose their side to the Championship if they don't support them.
Needs to come out. Yeah, exactly that. And I think and it's the same with Huddersfield. You can't take this for granted now. You've got to look at it and go, hang on, we the sort. I mean, I think Huddersfield's got a cushion there. They have got a cushion. They're good for the next few years. But Salford, the time is now. To quote the famous philosopher Moloko, the time is now. Dawn Baker says not sure how Wigan can improve. Neither do we, Dawn. That's why transparency, I think, is so important. Let's have a look at the scoring criteria. Let's see.
Do Wigan need to improve? Because it doesn't matter. It's not. I know it's Saints are above him at the moment.
Well, it matters to Michael, mate. He can't understand how Saints have a higher rating. He believes that they've got the best academy in the country. Now, that's quite a statement. I would have to say, that is quite a statement to put out there. But yeah, I think regardless of who won the academy this year, I think there's a lot of good teams in the academy. And I think there's going to be a little bit of jiggery pokery there in terms of the Wigan and Saints fans. With regards to that. And you're right, it doesn't really matter other than a bit of pride, maybe. But let's not forget that if Wigan was to win the grand final next year, that's three years on the spin, as well as what they're doing off the field. I don't see how they couldn't sit top.
Yeah, the biggest problem with Wigan, I suspect, and it'd be like we need to see everyone's where they've dropped points and where they've got potential to improve. But because they're in such a big stadium, even though their attendances are right up there with the highest in Super League, the utilisation of that stadium would be lower scoring than Leigh, for example, who are probably at 85, 90% capacity. So she's right in terms of if there was a purpose-built stadium for Wigan that was 18,000, similar to the Totally Wicked, then I suspect they'd probably be higher than. And if it was their own stadium, is it classed as their own stadium? Because it's their owner owns it, doesn't it?
Yeah, possibly. Again,
I don't know.
Again, we'd know if we see the detail, wouldn't we? Which will be interesting.
Yeah. I'm sure they will. I'm sure everyone will release it.
Carla's saying that she believes that goalposts will definitely be shifted to fit the narrative. We hope not, but again, we need the transparency. We need that in order to make fair and reasonable judgments on it. But sharing a little bit of concern around that.
I think that's progress, though, isn't it? Because as people or as clubs, should I say, as they start to, everyone's got LEDs, everyone's got a big screen. That then should be replaced with some more criteria to improve the game again and go to the next level. Yeah. So I'm all for changing things. That's basically what Derek's saying in his thing. Just change it for the better.
Absolutely. We've got Andy and Sue again. Lots of room still to improve at Cast. They deserve credit. We're giving them credit. We are giving them credit. I mean, what Castleford have done, absolutely outstanding. Matty Sale in the chat, can't expand the game without a big enough player pool, and academies should score more. And again, I think nobody would argue with that. Michael Matthews in the chat saying FC were complacent this season. And they got caught out. Annie and Sue concurring over the academy. Graham Stewart says that we should stick with IMG. I think that's going to come under more and more scrutiny, probably over the winter months because there's no rugby on the field. So I think Derek's comments on that statement could have a bit of weight. It'd be interesting to see if other chairmen come out. I've seen today that Stuart Pearson has come out at Hull FC. Andy Pearson, sorry, I don't know where Stuart Pearson, he's football, right? Andy Pearson come out at Hull FC, disappointed in certain aspects of how he's been scored, coming back to what Stef said. I'm disappointed. You knew exactly what you're going to get scored against. So it's one of those. It's,
regardless of whether people agree or don't disagree, everybody knew at the start of this process the scoring criteria. You knew. Leigh went through all those and basically said we're a grade A before, thinking because there's nothing. It's all to do with facts. There's nothing like someone's opinion on it. It's factual. It is what it is.
Leslie's back in. Leslie's on one today. Good old Les. So next year, what happens if a grade B? If none of the grade teams finish? Well, whoever's got the lowest digital score won't be in. So if we go back to the scoring criteria, it's all there. 17.02, 16.91, they'll all be scored against the criteria. And if they had 13 grade A teams next year, then the one with the lowest score of those 13 would not be in Super League. Now, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. This is why I think 14 teams needs to happen as soon as possible. But again, I point you to the statement today that's been made by Derek. It's not a loving, but he talks a lot of sense. Love him or hate him, he talks a lot of sense. The game cannot prop up 16 teams. There's loads of work to do in terms of the deal with regards to Sky and the money's coming into the game. And until more money comes into the game, it's a 12-team comp. So we could have 13, 14, 15 grade A's, but only have a 12-team comp.
Yeah, the simple answer to that one is don't be a grade B. And
don't be bottom.
And it doesn't matter if you finish bottom of the league.
No, but I'm about 13. You need to be in the 12.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be in the 12.
For anybody that says that that's potentially not achievable, if Wakefield can do it from the Championship, if Castleford can do it in their old stadium, then there's no excuse. I'm sorry if Salford don't make it, if Huddersfield don't make it, if Hull FC don't make it. For me, then I would just go, if Cass can do it, Wakefield can do it, you don't deserve to be in Super League. And if anybody disagrees with me, you disagree with me. But
yeah, the criteria is there, go and work to it. It's as simple
if
as
you
that.
If you can't get to a grade A as an established Super League side, you don't deserve to be in Super League.
There you go, Mr. Sale. There you go. You can quote Mr. Sale there. He's gone in and he's perfectly happy with it as well. Craig Forth says that he thinks Wakefield could do a Leigh next season. I think Wakey fans would take a Challenge Cup, no doubt about that. But I think for me, I think Wakey will be competitive. I don't see Wakey finishing bottom of the pile. I really don't. Where they'll finish, we'll discuss that over the winter when we do the shows where we look at the squad side by side and all of that. But I'm gonna guess that I won't be putting them bottom. I can't seem to putting them bottom. But hey, there's a lot of time between now and when we actually do that. Robert Higson paying tribute to both Leigh and Wake, and I throw KR into that as well. Done it. The Hardwater, both with championship seasons, absolutely, and KR all those years ago. They did incredibly well when they actually came back up, as we all saw. The Leeds get an extra point for the band, says Callum. We really are now clutching at straws, aren't we? We really are. The answer is absolutely.
There's no points for bands, unfortunately.
No, unfortunately not. No, and yeah. However, there are points for entertainment. So if you want to put live entertainment on in terms of a fan experience, I don't think a drumming in the stand cuts the mustard, but a Queen tribute does.
Does it?
Yeah, because it's about experience, isn't it? It'll go into some sort. No, but in terms of fan experience, you know what I mean. It helps. It helps, Craig. Don't.
It helps to get more people in the stadium.
Yeah, it helps. Yeah. It helps. I don't think people go to see the man bang his drum, do you?
No.
Okay. Moylan retirement has been confirmed absolutely right overnight, and we paid tribute to. Well, I say we paid tribute. I think he had two halves to his season. The first half was brilliant. Second half was personally.
He got injured, didn't he?
He got injured. For me,
the Wigan game where he came back too early, we did him, and he's never been the same since.
I agree. Shouldn't have come back. Certainly shouldn't have been in the side. I think that's pretty much it. Let's have a quick look. Mark Hills loved the fact that he's had Super League Raw during the course of his break. In-depth analysis and true spoken. What a way to spend my break. I love being a member and notified on this all the time. Thank you, guys. Well done, Mark. Good man. Well done. Yeah, I think a lot of people have really enjoyed. Nice. Oh, hey, Vicky Sale. There you go. There's the wife. Nice to spend lunch with you. Back to work now. So you've got to spend your lunch with your missus. She didn't even know that was going to happen. That's nice, isn't it? What's that, mate?
Doesn't know how lucky she is.
Absolutely not. But yeah, there you go. So I think we've gone through it all. For those who have put a comment in there and haven't managed to spot it, I do apologise. We've been an hour, so you can't grumble at that, can you? You can't grumble at that for your dinner time on a Wednesday afternoon. Interesting to see if we've got a verdict at 3:30 today on Sky, or because it's not the Rugby League season, it doesn't matter. I don't know. It did get on the ticker tape though at the bottom of Sky Sports News, so we should be thankful about that. But will we have a verdict at 3:30? Who knows? That's 2 hours away. We'll keep our eyes peeled on Sky Sports for that. Hopefully, Jenna is going to be talking through that. But yeah, we hope you've enjoyed this afternoon session. I'll just remind you guys, 2 weeks ago, we had Derek on the show, well, a week ago. Go and hear it from the horse's mouth. There's about a 20-25 minute section in that show where Derek talks IMG. It is box office TV. It really is. When we finished the show, we were all saying that was just incredible to hear his ideas for the sport and the passion that he talks about in terms of the sport of rugby league. That's well worth watching. Get yourself over to YouTube, have a look at that. Also, last night's show with Craig Lingard, again, box office stuff, how he was told that he was going to be leaving the Castleford Tigers, his thoughts on the 2024 project and what's next for Craig. Again, brilliant viewing, great entertainment. Both of those now available as a podcast as well if you prefer to listen to it in the car. We're back live a week on Friday for Super League Raw Weekly. Me and Stef are going to be at the England game this coming Sunday. If you see us, come and say hello. It'd be absolutely lovely to see you. Stef, as always, thank you for giving up your time and coming and giving people a fine dinner hour this afternoon.
My pleasure. I've enjoyed it, and I think it was important that we give a Super League Raw's perspective on the IMG grading, because it's
absolutely. And keep your eyes on our Facebook page. No clickbait. We don't do clickbait. We will share posts from around the game so that you don't have to go anywhere. Of course, you'll go to your own team, but if you want to know anything about the wider Super League game, then just go onto our Facebook page, Super League Raw or Super League Raw Fans Forum. We'll keep you up to date with everything that comes out of the clubs. You don't have to go anywhere else but there and enjoy the camaraderie that you get with some really good, solid rugby league supporters. It's a very, very well maintained group, very safe place to go. We don't tolerate bad behaviour, and that's what makes it so good. You can go and debate with respect. It's a great place for you to come and spend your time. So yeah, there you go. If you've joined us for the first time, we hope you've enjoyed that. Make sure you come and join us on YouTube, 8 p.m. a week on Friday for Super League Raw Weekly. Go to YouTube now, put in Super League Raw, and catch up on the shows that you've already missed and just see what we do every week. Believe you me, it's a fine piece of entertainment. Thank you for your time. Cheers, Stef. We'll see you in a week's time. Bye for now.
See you later.